Hi everyone. In this video, I'll talk about a new scenario question where user reports a random 500 errors from our API. But when we check the application logs, there is nothing unusual. So we'll discuss step by step how can we approach this problem and how to figure out the real issue. So these are the steps which we generally follow for this type of problem. So first we need to reproduce the issue. So that we can do maybe by using enabling the logging. So we can use the distributed tracing. So and we can have the correlated logs with those traces. And we can check the infrastructure and if there are any other particular dependencies related to it. And then we can monitor and validate the issues. So first step is which we need to reproduce the issue. So for that, we need to have the same production load or traffic pattern. And for that, we can use like same endpoint or same type of input data. We can have the we can test the edge cases basically using the nulls or if there are any unexpected inputs or special characters which we used. And we can include the concurrent requests basically to see if any high load triggers the issue. So here our main goal is to see the error, why this is happening, so we can analyze it rather than guessing. Next step is we need to enable the detailed logging. So for that we have to make sure we increase the log level from info to debug or trace. We need to enable request IDs or correlation IDs in all the logs and add the context like headers, user IDs, or the payload size. And then we have to log the exceptions fully, not just the messages. So here our what we want to achieve is we want to capture the hidden errors that normal logs may be missing. Next step is distributed tracing. So sometimes logs alone are not enough. So we need to use the distributed tracings to track the request across the services. So we can enable for all the requests those tracings, and we can use the tools like Zipkin, Jaeger, or the OpenTelemetry. And we need to trace the request from the API entry to the database or the downstream calls. Here we want to achieve basically to see exactly where the request fails in our flow. Next step is correlated logs with the traces. So once tracing is enabled, we can see the correlated logs with the traces. Then we need to look for the patterns such as if there are any specific user sessions causing the failures, or if there are any certain endpoints or request type which is failing. Or if there are any time-based patterns like errors only occurs at the peak hours. So this will help us to identify the exact method or the services where the failure is happening. Next is we need to check the infrastructure and the dependencies. So this in for this we need to verify basically the load balancer, proxies, or the API gateways, or if there are any data connection pool exhaustion is happening, then we need to check that also. Or if there are any external service call we are making, and for that any timeouts or failures are happening. The next is if there is any chance of thread pool saturation that is happening. So here these random 500 errors happen due to the maybe the resource exhaustion or the misconfiguration. So not the sometimes or the many times even the code itself. Next step is after identifying the issue, we can fix it, and then we need to validate the fix. So for that we need to try we have to reproduce the error in a staging environment. and we need to check the metrics like CPU, memory, or thread count and the DB connections, and then deploy the fix correctly to the production, and monitor production after the deployment to confirm if the issue is resolved. So the main goal is to ensure the problem is fully fixed, and it does not happen again. So other best practices for this or to avoid this such kind of issues, we need to always include the correlation or request IDs in our logs for the better traceability, and always use a health check and alerts to catch the failures early. And we need to always implement like we can implement the retry and backup for the external service calls, and always use feature flags for the risky endpoints. A random 500 errors with clean logs require a fully observability mindset. So for that we always have to follow like always reproduce the issue, try to reproduce the issue, and trace the full request across the services, and always use the correlated logs and the metrics, and identify the basically the real bottleneck. Remember, because logs alone are not enough, you need tracing metrics and careful analysis to solve these errors. So yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you find it useful. If you want more such type of videos, you can comment so I can continue making such type of videos more. Thanks for watching.